Alrighty, this lesson, chapter 3, section 2, is talking about X-intercepts and Y-intercepts and graphing using those intercepts. It's from Blitzer's Introductory to Algebra for college students. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to use a graph to identify intercepts. Now the word intercept hopefully makes you think of like intersect. Okay, an interception is when something crosses something else. In this case in math, the Y-intercept is where a line, whatever line you have, we're talking about lines here, could be vertical, horizontal, slanted, whichever direction. It's asking, the Y-intercept is asking, where does this line intersect, kind of like two roads would intersect each other at a traffic light. What is the point where this line intercepts the y-axis, or what is the point of the line where the x-axis and the y cross, because they cross at a point or they intersect at a point. So generally the equation of a line might look like this. You have a y, you have an m and an x and a b. We'll talk about what m and b stand for later, but right now we know that x and y correspond to points on the line. The letter m is how steep the line is. Is it going up, or is it kind of flattened? Is it going down, or is it just vertical or horizontal? So the M determines how steep it is. The B tells you where it crosses the y-axis. So the point where the line crosses the y-axis is called the y-intercept. So where does it intercept or intersect the y-axis? The point where it crosses the x-axis is called the x-intercept. If you'll notice, the x-intercept, if it crosses right here, if the point is on the x-axis, any point that's sitting on the x-axis has a y value of 0. Because we talked about a point has the left-right portion first and the up-down portion second. Well, if it only goes left or right, it sits on the x-axis, and therefore there is no up-down. Similarly, if there's a point that's sitting on the y-axis, that means you went up or down, but you did not go left or right. So the left or right part is 0, and the up or down part has a value. Okay, so let's talk about this. So it asks for you to identify the x-intercept and the y-intercept for each graph. They gave you the graph on a line. So let's look at line A. So this line A intersects the x-axis at a point. It actually crosses the x-axis right here. Well, if you'll notice, line A intersects the x-axis right here at this point. This point is 0, 0. It's the origin. Now we want to find out, where does the line cross the y-axis? Well, here's the y-axis, and here's the line. They cross, again, actually at the same point, which is the origin. All right, let's look at line B. Line B is right here, and we want to know, where does line B cross the x-axis? Where's the x-intercept? So here's the x-axis, here's the line. They cross at this point. This point is at -3, 0, because we went 3 left, but we did not go up or down. The y-intercept means, where does this line cross the y-axis? Is right here. It's at 0, 5, because we did not go left or right. We just went straight up, and that's where the point is, because we're identifying the point where they intersect. Line C. Ooh, this one's kind of tricky. Now, line C never ever crosses the x-axis. It's like train tracks. You never want the train tracks to ever cross each other, otherwise you could crash the train. They're parallel, so they're the same distance apart forever and ever and ever in both directions. So there is no place, just like there's roads in the universe, where those roads never ever cross each other, okay? So the x-intercept is none. There is none. Doesn't intersect the x-axis. But it does, line C, does cross or intersect the y-axis, and it crosses at this point. Of course, the coordinates of this point are 0, -2, because we did not go left or right. We only went up or down. All right, so the question is, do all lines cross the X or Y axis? And the answer is no. Vertical lines do not cross the Y axis. Horizontal lines do not cross the X axis. All right, so practice these. Here are the answers. Okay. All right, so let's look at graphing linear equations using intercepts. So in this case, we gave you lines and asked you to tell where do these lines intersect the x-axis or the y-axis. But sometimes we might say, hey, here's a line, by the way, just graph it. Well, that seems kind of hard, but if you think about it, remember when we intercepted the x-axis? The y part is 0 when you have a point, x and y. If it's on the x-axis, the y is 0. If it's on the y-axis, the x was 0 because we didn't move in the other direction. So in order to find the y-intercept, put 0 in for x. To find the x-intercept, put 0 in for y in the equation, and then you can graph the points and draw the line because you only need 2 points to draw a line. Always use a straight edge to draw a line, whether it's a ruler, an index card, a popsicle stick, it doesn't matter. And I've used popsicle sticks in many of my videos actually, but use a straight edge. Don't try to hand sketch it. This isn't art, it's math. So it's helpful to have the equation in this form. It's called the standard form to find the intercept because you can easily, when you put 0 in for x, this whole term goes away and you can solve for y. If you put 0 in for y, the middle term goes away and you can easily solve for x. All right, so it wants you to graph the line specifically using the x and y intercepts. That's what the directions tell you. So that means you need to find the x and y intercepts. So if I make x 0 for the y-intercept, I can put 0 in for x. This whole term becomes 0. Okay, so that means that this point, what did I put for x? X is 0 and y is -6. Because remember, we're graphing a point and another point. We're graphing the intercept of the y-axis, the intercept of the x-axis, and then drawing the line. Because the answer to the question is to graph the line and to use these intercepts. Now, when y is equal to 0, we put 0 where y was. Okay, so that means my point is 8, 0. I go 8 units to the right, none up and down, which makes sense because it needs to fit on the axis. So it says graph it using these two intercepts as points. So I have a point, 0, -6, and 8, 0. So I have 2 points. And honestly, all I need to draw a line is 2 points because the definition of a line is the shortest distance between 2 points. Notice that when you're drawing a line, you draw it all the way to the edge of the graph or a little bit beyond is fine. You never want to draw like a little mini line in the middle of the graph and have all this extra graph left over. It's more correct to just go all the way to the end. Also, don't forget your arrows. All right, try the right-hand side. Let's check it out. So I substituted 0 in for x, 0 in for y. I got my y-intercept, my x-intercept, drew my line, and now I have a line. Okay, stay tuned for section 3.3. We're going to be talking about more about intercepts of lines and slopes.